Hey guys, we got a different kind of video for you today. I'm actually sharing screen with somebody 1,000 miles away. We've got Trevor the other end down in LA doing his job, and I'm up here at my shop working on a hot rod, getting ready for him to drive one more time. But I had something come up. It's actually been kind of stirring in me for a while, but I wanted to talk about this, and I've actually mentioned it to Trevor that hey, we need to chat about this. And I was just trying to figure out the best way to share some info that I thought you guys might be interested in hearing. There's just a lot of backstories that I think kind of interesting, and hopefully you all will feel the same way. Well, this one involves Trevor, which is why he's here today. It's not just race car parts. I've got one of those videos I'm making for you too, but this involves Trevor specifically. So if you guys follow us at all, you may know that last weekend we were at Woodburn running their fall classic event that we do most every year, and had a good outing. The car made 5 full pulls down the track. I was hoping for a little better on ET, but the best part was, how do I say this? Trevor did a fantastic job. Look, driving these cars is not as easy as it may look. You know, hey, you just hang on for 5 seconds. What could be so hard? Well, respectfully, you try it and let me know how hard it is or isn't. There's a lot that happens, and it all happens so stinking fast. And somebody asked me 100 years ago when I was driving, as an example, well, man, you must have to have really quick reaction time. And I said, well, being quick to react is certainly good, but reacting correctly is even better, because doing the wrong thing fast does not help you. So you've got to know what the heck you're doing. And it just takes seat time. You know, you can explain it a million times, but until you've had your backside in there and thrust down the track at a high rate of speed very quickly, it's so disorienting when you start driving, because I've described it when I drove for this car for the first 14 years. To me, it always felt like getting rear-ended by a school bus going 100 miles an hour while your head is in a paint shaker, because it's just not smooth. It's not like any fast street car you may have that you think is really fast, and it doesn't mean it's not fast. That's not my point. But the vibration in this thing is just stunning. It really feels like your head's in a paint shaker. So it's not that easy to drive. So we've been working with Trevor. This is his second year with us. We're concluding our second year, going to finish up down at Pomona, I trust, and we're working on seeing if we can get funding to go to Vegas as well. But the point is, he's driven now for about 2 years, and he always did a good job initially. I never had any concerns about safety. He was always making good decisions in the car. And that was a concern. I didn't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know. But he did a really good job on that right out of the gate. I was pleased with that. So I always trusted him to not do something foolish. Now we move on to the more advanced stuff, like knowing where you're at in staging real shallow, and clicking the car off right past the finish line. Don't drive it another half mile, and as well as feeling where you're at on the track, to know to be able to come back and tell me, hey, I felt this at this point on the track, and I can look on the computer and go, well, crap, that's exactly where it happened. That's really hard, and it takes time. The other thing that's hard, and I will confess, I never mastered it, is leaving on time. Because if you're going to win a race, ever turn a wind light on, you've not only got to have a car that's quick, which we're working diligently on, but you're going to have a driver that leaves on time. And I was never awesome at that. So last year, Trevor was in my camp, not real awesome at that. But there's been a big change, and I want to tell you what happened. So last year, toward the end of the year, Trevor said, hey, I would really like you guys to move that throttle pedal for me. And frankly, I kind of poo-pooed it off, because we'd run at a night race at Woodburn shortly prior to that, and we'd run well. We'd run 5:34 at night with flames out. It was awesome. It was a really great run. But the point was, the pedal was where it was when I drove then, so I thought, well, crap, you don't really need that. Well, I was wrong, because his lights were not great last year, but the pedal was clear out there, because I'm way taller than Trevor is. I'm about 6'2", and Trevor, what are you?
5'10" to 5'9", depending on which 7-Eleven I'm leaving.
Exactly. So that difference made a big difference in how he would have to work with and engage the throttle pedal. Anyway, so we moved the pedal over the winter, and the next outing was the Winter Nationals, and his lights went from not very darn good, not competitive, to stunning. I mean, just immediately. But one of the things I'm most proud of that he told me, if I can share this story, Trevor, was that over that winter, I believe it was, is when we've both had these small practice trees, practice Christmas trees, a little computerized deal, but it's pretty small. Well, he went out and bought a full-size Christmas tree like you see at the racetrack. And my understanding is he canceled his cable. So when he get home at night, instead of watching TV, he would practice on that real life-size tree. That was, to me, very impressive because that's a heck of a commitment to get rid of your cable. You can't watch Charlie Brown or Hogan's Heroes or anything. That kind of stinks. But it's a heck of a commitment. But whatever he did, it worked. So even last weekend, as an example, his lights were incredible. His worst light, his horrible light, was an 87. And I think we had a 50 something, a 38, a 29, and a 23. And I've always believed that, frankly, if you're in the 20s, I'm saying you're guessing that you're not doing that. Well, the problem is he keeps doing it over and over. He's not guessing. So I don't know how he got there, but I'm telling you, he's turned into an amazing driver. I'm really proud of.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. It's just true. And I'm not making this up. I can say things to blow smoke up your skirt, but this ain't it. This is just true. It's very impressive. And so I was really proud of it.
It would have been one thing to say, oh, I've been working on my reaction times and then have no change. I didn't want to say, oh, I've been doing it. It's like, teacher, I did my homework. Well, your grades still suck. So you gotta perform, is not just run your mouth, So
right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Same thing with the time slips that I have to produce. You're absolutely right. So, and he did produce, and they were absolutely awesome. So I kind of play with him at the top end because he doesn't know what his reaction time is, and by then I do. And so I'll ask him, oh my God, do you know what your reaction time was? And
yeah, you screw with my head. You're like, oh, this was your worst one. I'm like, oh man, it was 87.
Yeah. So I'm real pleased with that. So we had a great time that way. I couldn't be more proud of how he's doing in the car and driving the car. That gets me to the topic. That was the intro there, only 27 minutes long there. So now what I want to talk about is Trevor showed up. When did you start doing this? How long ago was this?
What we're right at the double header.
Okay.
So I decided to do this.
Trevor showed up at the track with this, what I thought was this goofy thing, this red mohawk thing on the top of his dang helmet. And I just kind of shook my head and, oh my God, that's kind of goofy. You have a picture you can throw up here so folks know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Check this out. It's kind of interesting. So, and my first thought was, well, I wouldn't do anything that goofy, but I don't really care. As long as you can drive the car, I don't really care. So you're putting some personality into it. So yeah, that's fine. But hey, there we go. So there's Keithy Baby, who is getting Trevor all ready to go. That's a great picture of the side there. That's a good one. So he's got this red mohawk thing going on the top of his helmet. So my first thought was, probably like most people, it's just bravado. He's just being a smart ass, if I can say it that way. And I didn't really care. I care that he drives the car well. If you want to have some personality with it, that's all fine too. But that's what I thought. Well, since then, I know the story. I know the backstory where this came from, and that's not it. That not only is it not it, it isn't even close to being it. Additionally, I've heard some rumblings, and I don't name names, but I've heard some rumblings of folks around the pits who were making comments about. I think they must have thought it was just Trevor with a big attitude, and hey, we haven't won any races yet. How can you have such a cocky attitude? Well, that's not what it is. These people don't know what the hell they're talking about at all. And they don't bother. He posted this on his Facebook page, but it wasn't on the racing page. It was on his personal page. So if you didn't follow him personally, you'd never know the story. And the backstory is really cool. And I'm going to turn to him just a minute, I promise. But Trevor's dad drove many, many moons ago now. And sadly, Trevor lost his pop. And that just breaks my heart. But he lost his dad. So he does a lot of things in honor and memory of his pop. And I fully support that. I think it's awesome. And because of that, there's a backstory here as to why he's got this on there. And I'm going to pass the baton, Trevor, and let you tell the rest of the story. It's awesome.
I have a pretty good lineage of, excuse me, wow, the privilege of growing up in Southern California, the home of drag racing. It was literally conceived here. And I've grown up literally going to the track and these, in Bakersfield once a year. In 1990, they started what's called the Hot Rod Reunion. It was supposed to be a one-time thing where they had, they called it the Gathering of Geezers. It was all these old guys that brought their cars and stuff, and then they said, "Oh, we should do it again next year," and it became 2 years, and then 3 years, and then 5 years, then 10 years. And people are building cars just to do Cackle Fest. Cackle Fest came literally 8 years later. It started in 98 was the first Cackle Fest.
Wow.
And it was literally myself and my friend Bill Pitts's magic car. Gosh, I wonder if I could find that real quick. And what it was a tribute to the racers that have passed on.
Wow. While you're looking, I'll tell you, I was there in 2008 with a friend of mine from up here who had a nostalgia injected fuel car that ran in they called it A fuel class there, where you had the same top alcohol, blown alcohol cars, not top alcohol, blown alcohol cars or injected nitro like us, but in a nostalgia front engine version. So I had a buddy of mine up here that had one of those cars. So I went down there and I saw the Cackle cars. And frankly, I just presumed that reunion had been going on forever. But I didn't know that it had a beginning in 1990. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was a cool thing.
So the March meet, how did that come about then?
March meet's been around for, gosh, 50, 60 years.
Right.
It was the Bakersfield Smokers was a car club that put it on, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I welcome any car guys that want to correct me on that. But now what did I just do with the photo?
You're on your own there.
I'm on my work computer, so it stuff goes certain places
where all the racing stuff is. I get it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that Bakersfield deal it's an amazing event. There's a gazillion cars, and there you do get to meet or see a lot of the legacy folks from the sport that've been doing this forever. You know, crap, we lose these folks every year, and it's so sad because there's a lot of them. There's no legacy to continue on. These amazing craftspeople that run whatever kind of shop that they do, whether it's paint or engine work or machine work or whatever. But they're brilliant. But a lot of these older guys, they don't have a son or a daughter or anything to pass it on to. And so when they pass, it just goes away. It's just, to me, it's profoundly sad.
Let's see if I can share my screen here. All right, is that showing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
so awesome. This is the magic car. It's owned by my friend Bill Pitts. It was originally driven in the 60s by Jeep Hampshire, who is still around, actually.
Wow.
There was two brothers named Jeep and Ronnie Hampshire, both brothers from, I think, Central California, Northern California area.
Wow.
In 1998, I was with my friend at the races for this reunion deal, and Bill Pitts, the owner of this car, says, "Hey, I need a favor. Do you know how to use a video camera?" I said, "I do." And video cameras back then
were were ginormous. Yeah,
1998 were this thing you put on your shoulder, which was
it wasn't an iPhone. That's for darn sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he says, "We're doing this thing later." Steve Gibbs from NHRA was going to do this thing, and they're going to pull the car out in front of the grandstands and do read a list of people that have passed away and fire the car.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. And I'm 18 or 17 or 18 years old going, I get to go to the starting line.
Wow.
I get to go past the velvet rope, so to say. I was
right.
ecstatic. Awesome. So I go, but at the time they had also talked about, we should do a push start because this car has a drive line in it.
Oh, okay.
And there was confusion with the driver and the owner Bill, and the third entity of it was Steve Gibbs, who was arranging this whole thing. Jeep thought they were doing the push start, but it was just talk. So Jeep is down at the top end of the turnout, not at the starting line where the stage is. So I'm standing there with the camera, and Bill Pitts goes, "Hey, put this on." And he had this silver foil jacket, the face mask, the helmet, the goggles.
Right.
And I'm in like shorts. I'm in shorts and a fire suit top with the gloves. And I hop in the car. I was the only one that could fit in the car. Jeep is all of 5'4" and a tiny gentleman that at the time I was 5'7", 5'8". I was in high school. And I got in the car. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like thinking, what are we doing? I had no idea what we were doing. And then he hooks the starter up. I'm like, that's weird to hook a starter up for a car show. Like, I didn't know we were firing the car. Now that is a 392 Hemi.
That's awesome.
On 100% nitro, which you saw in the pictures, the flames.
That car is gorgeous. That's what I remember when I was a kid, going to the races. That's what a top fuel car looked like. There were some that weren't full bodied, but to me, the full bodied ones were the best looking. But back then there was a lot of theater to this too. I remember at our home track, which was Balboa, which is gone now, but it's in Eugene, about 60 miles south of Salem, Oregon, where I'm at now. Anyway, but I remember they would put the cars, push the cars down the strip, turn around, crisscross down there at the other end, push them back in the opposite lane they would be running in. And as they got close to the stands, they, I guess, let the clutch out because they'd start. And now they're running, and now they crisscross again back where we'd have the water box now, and turn around, and now they're going the right direction. There was a lot of drama in this back in the day, and it took a while to start these things because of all that stuff they had to do. But I just thought it was really cool.
These cars that are coming back to life from this nostalgia world of,
it's a big deal anymore.
I'm guilty of it too. I have one in my dad's old car in my garage that we built when he got diagnosed with cancer. It was one of our father-son projects that was the cool thing to do. And so with the history of the sport, my direct lineage of growing up around these guys that were my father's friends, and then going through all this stuff, I became very, very passionate about the history of the sport and preserving the history of the sport, because these guys are passing on, and pretty soon the top fuel cars of only the 90s are going to be the historic cars, because they're going to be 20, 30 years old at this point. So a lot of drivers back then would do to show the cars had personality. Each car has a personality today, but driver personalities, when you're all wearing a silver foil suit, there wasn't a lot of graphics and sponsors and stuff like that.
No, they were all the same.
So
my dad had one of those too. They were right. They were all the same.
Yeah. So what they would do is they would do unique things where they would have unique. This guy's name is Paul Sutherland, and he had like a snout, a mouse snout on his face mask.
Really? I'll be damned.
So he has a face snout. Like, everybody had a little different personality.
Wow.
To their stuff. Well, some guys did a plume that was
I had never heard of this before, and I don't have the history in the sport that you do, but I mean, my dad had a car back in the day. It wasn't top fuel. It ran in like D Dragster, but I've been to the track a number of times, saw a lot of top fuel cars, but I don't remember this. So when Trevor showed me this, I'd never seen this before. Check this out.
This is a picture of Lion's drag strip, which has a tower behind it back here.
Yep.
And that was the go-between from side to side of the towers. But this car is sitting on rollers, which are on this.
I remember that. Yeah,
that's how they would quote push start the car. They would start.
I remember that.
You know how they smog your car at the smog station?
Yeah.
That's what this thing basically was a drum underneath that would spin these wheels and get the motor spinning. They get the wheels spinning, which in turn turns the drive shaft, which in turn turns the crankshaft.
Right.
So you get it spinning, and then the driver lets the clutch out, and then they fire the ignition. The thing fires up, and then the wheels slowly drop down, and the driver pushes the clutch in, so the wheels stop spinning. The wheels will sink down, I guess, and the car would pull forward.
I remember hearing that. Did they have that at Pomona ever?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I remember hearing stories about it, and I thought it was at Pomona, but who knows? This is back in the day, mind you. It could have been in any of those strips or that one in particular. But I remember when I was a kid hearing about that roller start. It was the highest tech thing I'd ever heard of in my life.
So with the silver fire suit, all these drivers were finding some way to stand out and like How do I know who that driver is? Oh, well, can't you tell it's him? No, he's in a goddamn silver suit and silver face man. Like, so these guys would do these feather plumes and face masks. And Kelly Brown, my dad's friend, he wore a black fire suit, black face mask, black goggles, black helmet. He looked like a Darth Vader type
Right,
kind of
right.
guy. But everybody was looking
So,
for something to.
so that plume deal would go down the track with him?
Oh yeah, let
See,
me
that's
find.
crazy. So you show up with that, which is a couple inches, in honor of guys who did that, which is a couple feet. It looks like they're huge. I can't believe that, and I'd never heard of that. I didn't
This
know
is
that.
George Hutchinson. He's a famous guy. There was a few
Crazy.
pioneers. I wish I knew more of the names of these guys that would do it, but they're out there. You see them at the Cackle Fest. These guys have rejuvenated their spirit in rebuilding these cars just for Cackle Fest reasons, just to come out and do it 3 or 4 times a year with their family. It's like, this was dad's car. This was my car. This was what we did. And they love it. They get all their buddies. They get a push car. They do exactly what you're seeing here in the photo. And the smiles are ear to ear.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's amazing. I'd never heard that. So that's how Trevor came up with the idea to have that on his helmet, was in honor of guys who did that. And I didn't know about this. So it wasn't just Trevor trying to show off his ego. It was in honor of these guys that preceded us. Wow, that's a reflection off my wife's Denali. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dang, that's awesome. That's a great picture.
This kid Casey that takes these pictures, Casey Miller takes these amazing pictures.
He is very talented. There's no question. No question. He's amazing.
That's from the Seattle coverage there.
Yep. There it is. So anyway, I just thought it was a story worth sharing here, that Trevor had done this in honor of the guys who came before him, and he posted this on his personal Facebook page. And my understanding, Trevor, was that a handful of them responded to you, and they were pretty happy that you'd done that in honor.
Some of the guys would actually tag the guys I was speaking of.
Right.
And they were like, dude, thanks for paying homage to us. Like, people forgot about how it used to be, because nowadays the drivers have 100 sponsors and they have custom paint jobs and all that kind of stuff, which I love that stuff. I think you can express yourself through that kind of stuff, because as you well know, if you've paid any attention to the sport, all you see is our heads when we're in the car. Funny car, dragster, whatever it is, you rarely see.
Right.
You know.
Man, and a boat too. I'll be darned.
Yep. This is the same guy, Gary Gablich. He drove dragsters. He drove top fuel hydros. That was his thing, the claim to fame that he kind of. I don't know if he started
crazy. Man, I bet some of those guys didn't make the "and they walked away" videos in those boats.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Man, look at that. He's got his feathers matching the car. God, that's amazing. Very cool.
I'll get a purple a purple Mohawk.
Yeah.
That's all the accents and stuff.
I just thought the story was cool, that folks who had seen Trevor thought that it was one thing, and it was arrogance or whatever, and it had nothing to do with that. It was paying homage to guys in the past. And I thought, doggone it, that's a story that needs to be shared. That is too stinking cool. And I loved it. So I hit Trevor up and said, man, we need to talk about this or do something here. And so here we are, and talking about the story and where this came from. That was worth talking about.
We have fun out there. I'm glad. It's kind of cool to have the following that has come from driving your car, and these guys from as far as Australia and England. Hey, we love following your stuff. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
yeah, it's a real honor.
The informative videos that you do with the guys in the shop, which they kill me. I want to be there so bad when you guys are doing shop days. I would love to have those, but it's fun to see that kind of stuff and see the responses, the questions. And my God, these keyboard mechanics have good questions. I'm impressed with what they have.
Yes. And I work real diligently to answer every question. Everybody's got a legitimate, serious question. I try real hard to answer it. There may be a day that I can't do that anymore, but it's not this day. So I do work real hard at that.
Well, we're all working hard behind the scenes. We got some stuff in the works.
Yep.
I don't know if I can
Yep,
tell this, but we have a couple things that are maybe going through for next season. I don't want to give too much away, but
The car may not look the same next year as it does now.
gonna have a little makeover with some stuff that
Very excited about that. And Trevor's very talented at that. So
I am my
other
whole art
different
department on my
options.
show. I can't. I had them on all different screens here, and they were walking by, and people were like, I could have put dollar bills out and said, please vote on which one you like. We could have made money on this thing. It was like, oh, I like that one, but that one's cool, and then this one does this. I'm going, you guys know nothing about racing, but they all had input. It made sense too. That's what's scary is
That's
I
cool.
have a good group of guys I work with that were like, oh, that one's the cool one. That one's gonna do this. And
That's awesome.
my goodness.
Very
So,
cool. Well, appreciate your time, kid. Better let you get back to work, I guess.
Absolutely, yes.
And
Working on a
I'm-
Saturday is not fun.
Well, it's every Saturday for me, but it's working on hot rods. I'm not selling copiers today. I'm working on hot rod stuff. So we're out working the motor, doing a little technical stuff here. So I'm gonna head back out there with Josh and get that done, and
All right,
get back to work on your program.
cool. So everybody,
Hey.
hi for me, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate your time, Trevor. We'll talk soon. Thanks, kid.
Bye.